All right, let's put on our detective hats. Today, we're diving into a business performance case that's perfect for anyone prepping for the SCMPE exam. We're going to use variance analysis to look past the obvious numbers and find out what really happened. Let's get into it.
So our story starts at the well-known footwear shop. The supervisor comes in, profit numbers in hand, and they've smashed the budget. On the surface, this looks like a home run, right? But if you're a sharp analyst, you know that final number is just the start of the story. The real question isn't what they did, it's how they did it.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the main puzzle, that surprise profit. Then we'll hunt for clues, the sales volume, a really interesting price-cost trade-off, and some savings on staffing. After that, we'll put it all together to deliver the final verdict, and I'll leave you with a handy formula flashcard.
Okay, first things first, let's get to the crime scene, or, the profit and loss statement. We gotta get the basic facts straight before we can start digging any deeper.
Here it is, the initial evidence. The budget said they should make around $1,94,000 in profit, but what they actually made was over $2,30,000. That's a favorable difference of 36,500 rupees. Now, we can see they sold more shoes, and yeah, revenue and costs both went up. But these big numbers don't tell us why. For that, we need to pull out our first investigative tool.
So our first line of inquiry is the most obvious one, isn't it? They simply sold more shoes. Let's figure out what kind of impact that alone had on the shop's bottom line.
Now, this variance has a very specific job. It's all about measuring the pure impact of selling more stuff. For your SCMPE exam, the key concept here is isolation. We're going to pretend just for a second that nothing else changed, no price drops, no cost changes, and just ask, how much more profit did we make just from selling those extra pairs?
And this is the formula that gets us there. It's pretty simple. You take the change in the number of units you sold, and you multiply it by the standard or budgeted contribution per unit. And remember, contribution is just what's left over from the selling price after you cover your variable costs. It's what each sale contributes to profit.
So let's plug in the numbers, shall we? First, the change in volume is easy peasy. They sold 250 more pairs than planned. Second, we look back at our budget and find that the standard contribution was 122.5 rupees per pair. We multiply those two numbers and we get our answer.
And there we have it, a positive 30,625 rupees. Just by selling more shoes, the manager added over 30,000 to the profit. That is a huge piece of the puzzle, a very favorable variance. But wait a minute, that doesn't explain the whole 36,000, does it? Let's move on to our next clue.
Okay, now things get really interesting. We're going to look at the supervisor's strategy. See, it turns out they didn't just stick to the plan. They made some deliberate changes to their pricing and their costs, and these two things are totally connected.
The sales price variance does exactly what it says on the tin. It isolates one thing, the impact of charging a different price than we planned. Did we make more or less money on each item, and what was the total hit or help across everything we sold?
So the formula is just the difference between the actual price and the standard price, multiplied by how many units we actually sold. Here, the actual selling price was 480 rupees, but the budget was 500. So that's a 20 rupee drop per pair. You multiply that by the 2,500 pairs they sold, and the impact is, well, it's pretty big.
A negative 50,000 rupees. Whoa, that is an adverse variance. The decision to cut the price actually cost the business 50 grand in potential revenue. And that just raises a massive question.
I mean, on the face of it, this seems like a terrible decision, right? But remember, sales volume went up. The manager was playing chess, not checkers. This price cut was almost certainly a deliberate strategy to get more people in the door. But how did they afford it? Let's look at the other side of this deal. Just like we looked at the price we charge our customers, we've got to look at the price we pay our suppliers. The shoe cost variance tells us if we saved money or spent more than we planned on the goods we sold.
So, the formula is the standard cost minus the actual cost, times the actual quantity. The budgeted cost was 350 rupees a pair, but the supervisor worked some magic and got it down to 330. That's a saving of 20 rupees per pair. And over 2,500 pairs, that adds up to
Exactly 50,000 rupees. Favorable. And there it is, the aha moment. This is what the manager was doing. The 50,000 rupee hit they took from cutting the price was perfectly offset by a 50,000 rupee gain from getting a better deal from their supplier. They passed the entire saving on to the customer. That is a really clever move.
Okay,
we've solved the big price and volume mystery, but there's still a little bit of unexplained profit. So let's follow our final clue to find the last pieces of this puzzle, the staffing costs.
And what do you know? 2 more favorable variances pop up. First, because the selling price was lower, the 5.5% sales commission was also lower on each pair. That led to a nice little saving of 2,750 rupees. And second, and this is a real sign of great management, the supervisor did more with less. They handled all those extra sales while actually using fewer staff hours than planned, 25 hours less, saving another 3,125 rupees. That's just pure efficiency.
The investigation is complete. We've gathered all the evidence, all the clues. Now it is time to put it all together into one clear story and deliver our final verdict on how this supervisor really performed.
And this reconciliation statement, this is the final proof. It's where it all lines up. We start with the profit we expected to make, we add the big gain from selling more, we take away the 50 grand from the price cut, then immediately add back the 50 grand they saved on costs. We add in those 2 little staff savings, and where do we land? Bang on. Exactly the actual profit they made. Every single rupee is accounted for.
So, what's the verdict? This supervisor played a blinder. This wasn't luck, it was a brilliant strategy. They found a cost saving and passed it straight on to the customer. That price cut drove more sales, which was the main reason for the extra profit. And to top it all off, they handled that sales rush more efficiently, using fewer staff hours. Just incredible.
And the source material completely agrees. This wasn't just a happy accident. This was a well-thought-out, well-executed plan. It shows an amazing ability to both generate revenue and control costs at the same time. It's a textbook example of what great performance actually looks like.
Before we close the case file, let's just quickly round up the tools we used in our investigation. Think of this as your high-value takeaway, absolutely perfect for exam revision.
Here they are, a quick recap of our investigative toolkit. We had the sales volume variances, which showed us the impact of selling more. We had the sales price and shoe cost variances, which uncovered that clever trade-off strategy. And finally, the staffing variances that pointed to some amazing efficiency. Go ahead and screenshot this slide. It's your essential guide for any variance investigation you have to do.
And so we end up right back where we started, but now we see things differently. Beating a profit target, that's good. But understanding how it was done, through a smart strategy, driving sales, and boosting efficiency, well, that's what reveals truly great performance. The story is never just in the final number. It is always, always in the details.